Hello and welcome to my school channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we are going to be tackling the JAMB past question for literature for the year 2000. Please stay with us, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Myschool channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be tackling the JAMB past question for literature and English for the year 2000. So we're going to be focusing on questions 1 to 25. Let's begin with question 1. So this question is from the novel Morountodun. Titubu's experience at the peasants' camp is narrated through a dramatic technique called A. Reflection, B. Projection, C. Dramatic irony, and D. Flashback. So the answer to this question is option D, flashback. Flashback is a dramatic technique where the playwright tries to narrate events that happened before the play started to the reader so that the readers can catch up to what is going on in the story. So Femi Osofison uses flashback in this drama, in this play, in order to show Titubu's experience at the peasants' camp. So Titubu interrupts the revolt that was going on at the beginning of the play, where most of those farmers were revolting against the government for their oppressive system. So she interrupts this play in order to narrate her experience at the peasants' camp, how she infiltrated the peasants' camp, and how she discovered how their revolt is actually just. So this is how Femi Osofison tries to catch the readers up to what is going on in the play. So the answer to this question is option D, flashback. Question number 2. The language of the play is A, ambiguous, B, condemnatory, C, apolitical, and D, metaphoric. The answer to this question is option D, metaphoric. So a metaphor is a literary device that is used to compare two things to create more meaning for that thing being described, to add nuances to it. So Femi Osofison makes use of a lot of metaphors in this play. An example is the long eye of the sky. You can see that in the play. So this metaphor helps to describe something, to make it more memorable to the readers. Okay, so metaphor is used a lot in this play. Option D is the answer to this question. Question 3. We have no electric and we still drink Tamwiji from the stream. Many of our children are in jail. We protested and your police mounted expeditions to maim us and reduce our houses to ashes. The images depicted are those of A, poverty and opulence, B, opulence and brutality, C, suffering and depression, and D, suffering and brutality. So the answer to this question is option D, suffering and brutality. So we can see a lot of suffering and brutality in this excerpt. This excerpt again is from the play Morountodun by Femi Osofison. So it's talking about how the Agbekoyas, the farmers, are suffering as a result of the system of oppression that has been placed by the government. So they're talking about how they have no electricity. They still drink from a particular stream. The water from the stream is not good enough for their health. Then many of their children are in jail. That shows brutality. Brutality of the police officers who have arrested them because they protested. Then the police mounted expeditions to maim them and reduce their houses to ashes. All of this displays the brutality of the police that have been sent by the government to oppress the farmers. So option D, suffering and brutality, is the answer to this question. Question 4. Again, we have the same excerpt from the previous question. The speech is made by A, Titubu role-playing Moremi, B, Niniola role-playing Titubu, C, Mama Kayode role-playing Baba, and D, Molade role-playing Marshall. So the answer to this question is option C, Mama Kayode role-playing Baba. So when you were role-playing the things that happened at the peasants' camp, this is an excerpt from what somebody said while they were role-playing that particular scene. So Mama Kayode was role-playing Baba at the peasants' camp. So this is what Baba had said at the peasants' camp. So Mama Kayode is merely repeating what he had said. Option C, Mama Kayode role-playing Baba, is the answer to this question. Question 5. Okay, this question is based on William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So Speaker X says, what country friends is this? Speaker Y says, this is Illyria, lady. Speaker X says, and what should I do in Illyria? My brother is in Elysium, perchance he is not drowned. So the dialogue above takes place, option A, in the captain's ship, B, in Illyria, C, by the sea coast of Illyria, and D, by the sea coast after Illyria. So the answer to this question is option C, by the sea coast of Illyria. Speaker X is Viola. She's talking to the sea captain, who is Speaker Y. She's asking where they are because a shipwreck had just happened and they washed off on the sea coast of Illyria, and she's asking the ship captain where they are so that she would know what was going on and where she could go next. So she's also talking about how her brother Cesario probably had drowned during the shipwreck. So she's still confused as to what was going on. So the answer to this question is option C, by the sea coast of Illyria. Question 6. Again, this is from the play Twelfth Night. The author successfully conveys his message through A, interior monologue, B, comedy of manners, C, satirical performances, and D, comedy of errors. The answer to this question is option D, comedy of errors. So William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night is a comedy of errors. A comedy of error is a type of play that discusses mistaken identities, a lot of complex situations that lead to something funny at the end of the day. So it's a play that eventually ends on a light-hearted note, but it's all about mistaken identities, people mistaking one person for another. So that is what comedy of errors is about, and Twelfth Night is a comedy of error. We have a lot of people dressed like other characters in order to mimic them and to confuse other characters. So the answer to this question is option D, comedy of errors. Question 7. Again, this is from the play Twelfth Night. Valentine says, but like a cloistress, she will veiled walk, and water once a day her chamber round, with Eve offending brine, all this to season. The imagery above describes A, Viola's deep sorrow for her drowned brother, B, Olivia's deep sorrow over the loss of her brother's love, C, Viola's grief over a love she cannot show, and D, Olivia's intense grief over the death of her brother. So the answer to this question is option D, Olivia's intense grief over the death of her brother. So Valentine is talking about how Olivia is expressing her grief towards the death of her brother Sebastian. So he says that she walked around veiled, covered in black. She only has her bath once a day, and with Eve offending brine means that she cries all the time. All this to show her intense grief over the death of her brother Sebastian. So the answer to this question is option D, Olivia's intense grief over the death of her brother. Question 8. Again, this is from Twelfth Night. The play is about love, A, longing and ambition, B, pretense and hatred, C, loss and death, and D, commitment and marriage. So the answer to this question is option D, commitment and marriage. So the play Twelfth Night is about love, commitment, and marriage. So Viola, which is one of the major characters in the novel, has a lot of suitors, a lot of people coming to her, showing their interest in getting married to her, but she refuses most of them. It is when Olivia comes back dressed as Cesario that she falls in love with Olivia dressed as Cesario. But eventually she discovers that she's actually dressed as a man, but she's a woman. She was eventually convinced that Osino is a better suitor for her. So at the end of the play, she marries Osino. Osino and Viola fell in love with each other and got married to each other. So the answer to this question is option D, commitment and marriage. Question 9. Again, it's from the play Twelfth Night. Two major elements of the diction in the play are the A, scenes and roles of characters, B, political and educational background of players, C, gender and class of the speakers, and D, status and emotion of the speakers. The answer to this question is option D, status and emotion of the speakers. So William Shakespeare makes use of diction. Diction is choice of language, how you make use of language to display certain things about the character and to also relate the message of the play to the readers. So William Shakespeare makes use of diction to show the status and the emotions of the speaker. So for example, Malvolio makes use of a lot of formal language to express how his elevated status, how he's much better than everybody else in the play. And then Firstly makes use of a lot of wits, a lot of humor when he's speaking in order to show his playful tone. So William Shakespeare actually uses language to show the status and emotion of the speaker. The answer to this question is option D. Do you know you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past question? All you need to do is to go down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can download the Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and the Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Now to question 10. This question is from the novel The African Child. The success of the novel lies in the author's A, realistic portrayal of Laia's courtship with Mary, B, effective use of sociological and fictional materials, C. Recreation of an African childhood in Conakry, and D. The use of traditional elements for color. So the answer to this question is option B, effective use of sociological and fictional materials. So the writer of this play, The African Child, makes use of a lot of sociological material and fictional material. Sociological in the sense that this play is based on his childhood in Guinea. Okay, so it talks about a lot of what happened while he was a child in Guinea. So it's very relatable to everybody in the Guinean society. They understand the play very well because it takes them back to their childhood, how everything was then. It also makes use of a lot of fictional material in the sense that some of the things that are in the story are not biographical. They are based on fiction, stories from the writer's head. So the answer to this question is option B, effective use of sociological and fictional materials. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 11. Again, this question is based on The African Child. The most important objects in the hut are the A, prayer rugs, B, implements used in the workshop, C, toolboxes of Camara's father, and D, pots containing the magic charms. So the answer to this question is option D, the pots containing the magic charms. So in the play, the writer talks about how there is a blend of Islamic and traditional religion in their household. So this pot containing magic charms is one of the elements of their respect for their traditional religion. They believe that this pot of containing magic charms offers protection for the entire family and is a way of relating to their ancestors. So they have it and they believe it is the most important object in their huts. The answer to this question is option D. Question 12. Again, this is from the novel The African Child. The friendship between Laye and Marie lasted because A, they were schoolmates, B, they had mutual respect for each other, C, his uncle approved of her, and D, Marie was a beautiful girl. So the answer to this question is option B, they had mutual respect for each other. So Marie is actually a girl that he met in Conakry while he went to study further in Conakry, the capital of Guinea. So while he was there, he met Marie. Marie is the daughter of one of his uncle's close friends. So they met each other and they began to study together and go around together within Conakry. So although their aunt was trying to convince them that they should have a relationship and get married at the end of the day, they did not care about that. They were more concerned with their education and furthering their education. So they had this mutual respect for each other's ambitions, goals, and career. So Laye wanted to continue his education in France, while Marie wanted to continue to pursue a teaching degree in Senegal. So at the end of the play, we see both of them in a plane heading to different locations. While Marie was going to Senegal, Laye was going to France. So they were actually parting ways, but they promised each other that they would get back in touch with each other. This shows that they have mutual respect for each other's ambitions, for each other's goals. So the answer to this question is option B, they had mutual respect for each other. Question 13. So this question is based on Buchi Emecheta's Second Class Citizen. The novel is an expose of the A, preeminent position of boys in Igbo land, B, experiences of Ada's mother in the police cell, C, travails of the girl child, and D, marriage customs of the Igbo land. So the answer to this question is option C, travails of the girl child. So Buchi Emecheta's Second Class Citizen is essentially talking about how women are treated in the traditional West African society in the 20th century. So they talked about how Ada, the main character, is not allowed to go to school at the beginning of the novel because they wanted to fund her brother's education. So this shows the travails of the girl child in 20th century African society. Then, when she gets married to Francis, her husband, she's not allowed to have a say in how the resources she earns at the end of the day is used in family. We discover that they make use of her salary to further Francis' education and also to pay for Francis's sister's education. All of this shows how the girl child often doesn't have a say in her education, in marriage, and in social situations. So the answer to this question is option C, travails of the girl child. Question 14. Again, this question is based on Second Class Citizen. For her acts of child neglect, Ada's mother was forced by the police to A, taste raw and black pepper, B, sleep in a solitary cell, C, drink a bowl of gari, and D, pay a fine of 10 shillings. So the answer to this question is option C, drink a bowl of gari. So we discovered this in chapter 1, childhood of the novel, where they discuss how Ada decided to sneak out of the house in order to go to the Methodist school to start schooling because her parents did not allow her to go to school. So her mother was not aware of this fact, and so they thought she was missing. So they were looking for her. The police arrested Ada's mother as a result of child neglect, and she was forced to drink a bowl of garri while in the cell. So the answer to this question is option C, drink a bowl of garri. Question 15. Again, this is from the novel Second Class Citizen. Ada's sojourn in London reveals that A, marriage is an equal partnership between spouses, B, her marriage improves, C, Francis is a hard-working man, and D, the plight of the black woman does not change. So the answer to this question is option D, the plight of the black woman does not change. We discover that even after Ada had left the African society to London, she still faces discrimination as a result of the color of her skin. So there is an extra layer to this concept of second-class citizen. It's not only about sexism, it's also about racism. So she's not only a woman, she's a black woman in the English society. So as a result of that, she faces a lot of trials while she's in London. First of all, she's not allowed to get a good accommodation in spite of the fact that she has the money to pay for it. No colors are allowed in most neighborhoods in London. So she had to settle for a more dilapidated structure in order to house herself and her family. So all of this shows that the plight of the black woman does not change. Option D is the answer to this question. Question 16. This question is based on The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. The old man's experience is a lesson in A, endurance and hard work, B, happiness and reliance, C, indolence and regret, and D, achievement and celebration. So the answer to this question is option A, endurance and hard work. So the old man Santiago battled with a marlin fish while he was fishing in the sea. So he discovered this marlin fish, but it was too big for him to pull into his ship. So he battled with that marlin fish for 3 days until he was able to get to the shore. Before he could get to the shore, sharks actually got the marlin fish and ate it down to its skeleton. So eventually we discovered that he did not get anything in return at the end of the day. However, this novel still teaches about the importance of endurance and hard work. He battled with the marlin fish for 3 days. This shows that true success doesn't lie in the results you get, but rather in the efforts that you put into the work that you are doing. So this is the message of the novel. It is what the novel is trying to teach: the importance of hard work, the importance of endurance. The answer to this question is option A. Question 17. Again, this question is based on The Old Man and the Sea. The old man was dreaming about the lions, suggests that he is A, going to hunt lions, B, still determined and hopeful, C, afraid of future struggles, and D, about to enter new jungles. So the answer to this question is option B, still determined and hopeful. So the old man dreaming about the lions is a reference to when the old man was still fishing along the coast of Africa. So he usually saw lions lying on the beach of Africa. So he remembered the old days when he was still strong and youthful. So his remembrance of the old days shows that he's still determined and hopeful to get back to his youthful state when he was still able to catch a lot of fish. So he's still determined and hopeful that he will be able to be strong enough to continue to fish. So the answer to this question is option B, still determined and hopeful. Question 18. Again, this question is based on The Old Man and the Sea. The novel is set in the A, White Peaks of the Canary Islands, B, Fishing Coast of Havana, C, Fishing Coast of Cienfuegos, and D, Fishing Coast of Casablanca. So the answer to this question is option B, Fishing Coast of Havana. The story takes place along the coast of Havana in Cuba. So this is where Santiago, the old man, undergoes his adventure to catch the great marlin. So all of the events in the story takes place along that coast of Havana in Cuba. The answer to this question is option B, Fishing Coast of Havana. Question 19. Again, the question is based on The Old Man and the Sea. The plot of the novel revolves around A, the great adventure of a great fish, B, a man's adventure on the sea, C, a man's fight with a great fish, and D, a boy's fight with a great fish. So the answer to this question is option B, a man's adventure on the sea. That is the subject matter of the novel. It talks about how the old man, Santiago, has an adventure on the sea. At the beginning of the play, we discovered that he is no longer youthful enough to catch fish. He has not caught fish for a very long time, and so his servant boy had to leave him to find a better master. So as a result of that, he journeys on the sea alone and eventually finds this great marlin that he battles with for 3 days. He is not able to haul the marlin onto his ship. So he battles with the marlin for 3 days. So during these 3 days, he tries to get the fish onto his boat, but he's unable to do that. The climax of the story is when his hand eventually gets bitten by the shark. In spite of this, he doesn't give up. Eventually, he's able to haul the marlin down to the shore, but we discover that the marlin has already been eaten by sharks. So this is a story of an epic adventure of an old man named Santiago on the sea. So the answer to this question is option B, a man's adventure on the sea. Do you have a question? Please feel free to ask your question by going down to the link in the description below. This takes you to the Myschool website where you can ask your question and a solution will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now on to question 20. The author's thematic concern is A, the boy's assistance to the man, B, life in efficient community, C, the achievements of the old man, and D, the ability to rise above defeat. So the answer to this question is option D, the ability to rise above defeat. So this novel, The Old Man and the Sea, is centered around the message of that ability, the ability to persevere, to rise above defeat. The old man Santiago was battling the great marlin in the ocean for 3 days, but he is unable to haul the marlin to his ship. In spite of that, he continues to persevere. He persevered for 3 days and eventually is able to haul the marlin to shore. Although the marlin gets eaten by shark, but he was able to accomplish his mission at the end of the day. This shows the importance of perseverance, endurance, and the ability to rise above defeat despite overwhelming odds. So this is the central theme of this particular novel, the ability to rise above defeat. Do you have a better explanation or solution to any of these questions? If you do, please go down to the comment section below. Indicate the question number and the solution you would like to share. Question 21. The skeleton of the fish is brought by the shore to A, draw sympathy for the old man, B, show the old man's fruitless efforts, C, show that the skeleton itself is useful, D, mock the misadventure of the old man. So the answer to this question is option A, draw sympathy for the old man. We understand that the novel, The Old Man and the Sea, is a tragedy. So at the end of a tragic work, we discover that the efforts of the main character is usually fruitless because of a central flaw in the old man. This old man is old and he doesn't have that youthful exuberance to be able to haul the marlin back to shore. He puts a lot of effort into getting this marlin back to the coast of Havana, but eventually the marlin gets eaten by shark. We see that this is a tragedy, and tragic work usually draws sympathy in the minds of the reader. Okay, so we see that the reader understands the efforts that old man Santiago had put into bringing this marlin back to shore only to be eaten by sharks. So it helps to draw that sympathy, that pity in the minds of the reader. Option A, draw sympathy for the old man, is the answer to this question. Question 22. This question is based on selected poems from these collections. Hurrah for Thunder by Christopher Okigbo could be regarded as a call to A, beware of the animals in the jungle, B, beware of the effects of thunder, C, condemn the destructive qualities of elephants, and D, be conscious and vigilant of man's abuse of power. So the answer to this question is option D, be conscious and vigilant of man's abuse of power. So in this particular poem, Christopher Okigbo compares elephants to the leaders in Africa, to our African leaders, our African politicians. He compares them to elephants in the sense that they can create a lot of destruction in one fell swoop just for their selfish gain. So as a result of that, he's warning us citizens, civilians, to be conscious and vigilant of our politicians' potential abuse of power. So the answer to this question is option D, be conscious and vigilant of man's abuse of power. Question 23. Again, this question is based on these selected collections. My bottom raving black, one moment, madam, sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap. The extract above from Wole Soyinka's telephone conversation shows the friction between A, madam and receiver, B, tenant and telephone, C, landlady and tenant, and D, receiver and thunderclap. So the answer to this question is option C, landlady and tenant. So this particular poem, Telephone Conversation, is based on a conversation between a landlady and a potential tenant, someone who is looking for a place to stay. And so they have a conversation over the phone. So while they have a conversation, the landlady is informally trying to find out whether the tenant is white or black, and then she uses different methods to get at that without actually asking if the person is black or white. So it's actually a very comedic poem. So this excerpt is from Telephone Conversation, and it shows the friction between a landlady and the tenant as she's trying to guess at whether the tenant is actually white or black. The answer to this question is option C. Question 24. Again, this question is based on these selected poems from the collection. In Wole Soyinka's Telephone Conversation, the dominant literary technique deployed is A. Alliteration, B. Onomatopoeia, C. Oxymoron, and D. Simile. The answer to this question is option A. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sounds in lines of poetry. So in this particular poem, Wole Soyinka makes use of a lot of alliteration, a lot of repetition of consonant sounds. The reason it does this is to ensure that the poem is rhythmic and to emphasize certain parts of the poem. So this helps to reiterate the message of the poem in the minds of the reader so that the poem can be more memorable to the readers. The answer to this question is option A. Alliteration. Question 25. Again, this question is based on this collection. David Rubadiri's Stanley Meets Mutesa symbolically describes the meeting between A black king and a white man, B. Stanley and Mutesa, C. the West and Africa, and D. Europe and a black king. So the answer to this question is option C, the West and Africa. So the poem Stanley Meets Mutesa symbolically describes the meeting between Henry Morton Stanley, a European explorer, and Mutesa, an African king. So it shows how the Europeans actually made use of imperialism, which is an ideology, to impose their culture, their values on the African people. So it is essentially a symbol of the meeting between the West, that is Europe, and Africa. So our answer to this question is option C. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.